ressenti partout.
All right, let's get into the actual news items that we have prepared for you guys tonight. And Rob, let's start off with yours.
You want to start off with mine? Okay,
Yeah, let's start off
so
with yours.
obviously everyone knows uh, I love auto racing. I love NASCAR, um, and so obviously no sports are going on at this moment. No, there's no live sports. I mean outside of like some UFC events. I think there's been some wrestling, and horse racing. There's been some horse racing, but no, outside of none of the major sports are going right now. But NASCAR has been doing, uh, and probably the only sport that can do this. They're using the iRacing simulator to put on races. A select number of races with certain drivers, and they IndyCar has been on the action, NASCAR, and they're doing all sorts of different stuff throughout the week, which has been great. Um, However, during one such of these midweek broadcasts, um, uh, they were doing an event, and the thing about the iRacing program is that when you're doing like a lot of these drivers are doing their own like Twitch live streams, along with doing having the TV broadcast, and you have a different kind of like an onboard radio like they have in the real cars. You have the uh, kind of like uh, your group chat that only like your friends that you're on with can hear, and then there's the you also have a switch to a kind of like the actual broadcasted radio. So like stuff if you're talking to people, you can either do it through the group or you can do it in a private one. And NASCAR up and coming young superstar Kyle Larson, who is um, he's he came up through the Drive for Diversity program in NASCAR. He's half Japanese, half white, um, and what he was suspected to be like because he's a free agent at the end of the season, and he was suspected like he could pretty much choose whatever ride he wanted. A lot of rumors were that he might be going to replace um, seven-time champion Jimmy Johnson. He might be going to this ride. He might be going to that ride. He could pretty much pick and choose wherever he wanted to go because he's really, really talented. And but he during one of these broadcasts, he said the word that is pretty much pretty much puts like everyone like, oh, he said that. He said the N word over one of the broadcasts. I'm not gonna say it over over this in case I had to start wheeling out the podium and apologizing to sponsors
Fine,
before
fine.
I get
Fine. I'll take it up on myself. He said nigger. All right. He said nigger.
bingo. That's he said that word and it's like, oh boy. That and it raised this entire shitstorm. And so what happened is because all these like special broadcasts, it was supposed to be for fun. It was supposed to be for entertainment to give race fans something to enjoy, or people who are kind of curious about racing, something to enjoy during this time. And what it has become is another avenue for the sport to continue to run because it's giving sponsors added exposure that they aren't getting at the actual racetracks, and it's which in turn is keeping the teams, keeping the employees, so they're not having to like lay off people. They're still able to pay their employees, and man, the the backlash that happened from this was huge because pretty much all the sponsors pulled out from Kyle Larson. And especially at this time, because everything's kind of like on, very thin ice, financially, and it's like so all these sponsors, like, we are disassociating our ties with Kyle Larson, um, uh, the Chevrolet, McDonald's, Credit One Bank, all his sponsors pulled out. Um, and NASCAR put him on an indefinite suspension. And Chip Ganassi put him on suspension, and then once the sponsors pulled out, it's like they had no choice. It's like they probably all had a meeting together. It's like, well, if we fire him, will you stay? And that's essentially what they end up having to fire him. Um, and so the guy goes from having his choice of ride, wherever he wanted to go, and now he is out of the sport right now. And I think he'll be back, but just the how that affects the entire off season, because there's a lot of drivers that are under, are kind of, their contracts are ending, and the sports, all sports are kind of like in a weird place right now with, as far as, how the season's going to go, sponsorships, finances, all that stuff. And it was like the worst time for something like this to happen. And it just, now he did come out with I would say a very sincere apology. Um, I didn't. I think it was just like one of those things where, for our sport, like, obviously it has kind of this reputation of like being a redneck Southern sport that's racist and hates blacks and all these other um, all these people that are not white, and that's just, to be honest, that the reality is that's just not the case. Our sport is actually pretty diverse, fan base wise, um, even in the sport itself, as far as like crew members, team members, all that sort of stuff. And but yeah, this is like, the guy is like, what? It's like, what the hell are you thinking? It's, I mean, obviously, it's not a word that I use, but like, in even, and to be honest, I don't really care. It doesn't like, hurt me, but it's just, when you're in a sport that's so dependent on sponsorship, to say something like that, are you? It's just that you're a fucking idiot.
Yes. Um, yeah, it's really fucking hysterical that like there's like that whole thing with like they try to go after PewDiePie too because he was he said nigger too while playing a video game, like
Yeah,
and it was just he's like from Sweden, so I mean he's he's for most part
yeah.
he's removed from like this whole like racial kind of thing.
It's not the same. It doesn't. It's not the same thing.
And yeah, and he like yeah, like the way, and obviously there's context with and he was just he was frustrated at this one person who kept like getting in his way or whatever. Not to say that I'm excusing what Kyle Larson did. I don't care.
No, I don't care
I
either.
yeah, I just I literally a minute ago just said nigger. I don't care either. All right. Because if you're saying that one word, you know, will just it can disassemble an entire population of people by its mere utterance, then you completely lost me, right?
Yeah.
Right. That and they always say like then 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 like then no, you can never utter a racial epithet ever again. Like, you can't say you
Yeah.
can't say spit, you can't say spick, chink, um, kike, any of those things ever,
Yeah.
wetback, beaner, zipperhead, gook. You can't say any of it then, right? It's just you can't say any of it because but then they'll always come back and say, oh well, a nigger has like that history, hatred behind it. It's like
Yeah.
everyone has been a nigger. Everyone has been a nigger. All right. If you've ever been under an oppressed, if you've ever been like a conquered people, you have been the nigger.
At some point in time, every people group has been oppressed or like enslaved or something, and it's just and trust me, all that's bad. Yes, no one's saying like yeah, pro slavery, woo. No one's saying that. But the fact that we give so much power to these words
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous.
Right, and it's super patronizing and it's super infantilizing to black people. It's like, oh, you can't hear that word, or you're just gonna be, melt into a puddle, of emotions. It's like,
Yeah,
it's like you're saying that black people are a bunch of little bitches.
yeah. It's like, and now, do I say these words? Not, no, I don't. I don't because, but the thing is, because I have, I have a very vast vocabulary. I don't need to use those words. But the fact that a single word can just, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I've
I think
I've I've literally I've actually said nigger in front of a black person before, and it was fine. It was fine.
and
No, I didn't. Again, let me specify. I didn't call this the black person a nigger. But
yeah.
it was at a Christmas party, and there was a UFC fight going on, and I don't know. Have I told you this story?
No, the well, I was at this Christmas party and
Yeah, no, I was at this Christmas party, and
had a little too much egg
yeah,
in
the,
my
you know the
Caffrey.
UFC was going on, and there's this uh, this there's this couple there, a black couple. The wife was the one who was associated with the host, and her husband, it was her husband, and so he came and watched the fight, and yes, he had a few to drink, and it was like the main title fight, and everyone was
Yeah,
excited, and he just like he was just saying, and he was calling. It was like I forget. It was like I think it was this, I think it was a white guy versus a black guy, but this black guy was going against the black fighter, right? So he was, and again, he was kind of tipsy, and it's like, oh man, and he was like, kill that nigga, kill that nigga. It's just like, during the entire fight, he was all he was saying is like, oh, kick that nigga's ass and stuff like that. And so, and I just like, yeah, I was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I hope he's like, yes, and I just said, kind of getting caught up in the whole thing. I was like, yeah, I hope, he's like, I hope that, yeah, he's like, kick that nigger's ass. And and it's like, and then he looked at me. It's like, I know, right? I hope that nigga gets his ass kicked, and he was just fine.
yeah.
Like, and
Well,
he
it's
like, and yeah, he had something to drink, but he was still totally aware, And I just met this guy.
yeah,
It was completely, and like, and why is it that he gets to say it, and he was saying against another black person, right?
you know,
Isn't that a little? How could he be disparaging towards another black person?
right. Well, that's what I said. It's when we start giving these words so much power, where it's like, oh, we can't even utter that phrase. It's like, well, then you're doing life wrong. These words shouldn't have power. They should just be words. Honestly, I could cut someone down worse by not even using those words. I could do it without saying an expletive. I could do it without saying racial terms. But I could say things that are a lot worse to someone and like be a lot a lot more cruel than anything else, especially with like a lot of this, spreading like lies and rumors, and that could destroy someone's reputation, which is way worse.
Right. Yeah, and then
But people don't think that.
yeah, and as Owen Benjamin would say, it's like, it's like, what's worse, me saying nigger or necrophilia?
Yeah,
Calling
exactly.
someone calling someone a necrophiliac. That's way worse. And I
Oh
and
my
I tend
god.
and I tend to agree. I
Oh.
tend to agree because, like, yeah, one is just just a word, but but necrophiliac, that means you like to get down on dead people.
Oh god. Yeah, that's a fucked up like.
Yeah,
But the thing is,
you're a fucked up human being.
well, yeah, that was kind of going on that tangent. That was exactly what like Ted Bundy would do. Like after he would kill his victims, he would go back and fuck them until like they uh decayed until he couldn't do it
Yeah,
anymore.
until like to the point like they're like decomposing. Yeah, he would like yeah he would stick his penis inside dead into corpses.
God, fuck. Oh God. Oh,
I know. Yeah, I
oh
even when I uttered those words, like, yeah, I got the willies.
God.
Yeah.
It's just
See,
oh.
to me, that is a worse word. All right, to be called the necrophiliac. That's a worse word.
It's like no, fuck you. I don't fuck dead people. You sick fuck.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, it's just
I just think
it's
I
like,
you know
yeah, for
I
like,
look.
listen, I don't know anything about Kyle Larson. I don't know, like, I'm not a fan of NASCAR, so I haven't really been following. But don't hold your breath. But you know, like, I don't think he deserved to be fired. If you wanted to fine his, if you wanted to fine him and like have him sit out for like half the season, go ahead. Punish him however you feel that you need that he needs to be punished for what he did. Which, again, I don't even care. I really don't care. But but you know but then you're then gonna you then have set a precedent. And so, like, what is it only gonna be is it only gonna be nigger, that that's the word that you can't say? What if another driver say, oh, that damn spick, or that damn gook? Are you gonna fire him, or fire the driver for using those words? Because you have to be consistent. If you have to be consistent, if any racial epithet is off grounds, and if you even hear like if you hear utterance of any other racial epithet, then you have to fire that person.
I would certainly hope that they and NASCAR has done a fairly good job of being consistent, and I think as far as like that goes, I mean, there's another controversy that they with another driver that when dealing with like kind of the drug issues, which this driver got completely fucked over, which is another story I'll talk about at another time. Um, but as far as like this, like I just think it's dumb because there's a difference between obviously like reality and theory, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously the theory we both believe that to give power to these words like this is ridiculous. Unfortunately, the reality is that that's exactly what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
whereas like if you're in another sport like baseball, basketball, football, sure, like you might lose out on like personally some sponsorship, but you're probably gonna get like fined, maybe suspended a couple games. No big deal. NASCAR, on the other hand, is so sponsor dependent to run,
Mm-hmm.
and companies are like they don't want anything to do with that. It's about making money, And the mob is such a it's like how they don't want to even like deal with that. It's like, you know what, fuck this. You clearly, you said, this is a word that nobody likes. We're distancing ourselves as far away from you as possible, and that's it. And once you lose sponsorship in NASCAR, yeah, you're fucked, because that's a lot of these sponsors. They're not necessarily tied to the race team; they're tied to the driver.
Mhm.
And once those sponsors go away, it's like, well, we can't afford to give you a ride, so pack your bags, buddy. Um, and that's why it's like, for Kyle Larson, who is at, like, he's a young driver. He's like 26, I think, 26, 27. He's getting ready to be into the prime of his career, and he fucked himself. And it's just stupid. Um, but it's so now, it, it the silly where they all this stuff with the rumors and stuff that start going around in NASCAR about driver and team changes. It's called silly season, and it just threw a huge bomb into the whole uh, into silly season. Like, what's going to happen? And I mean, the sport's already kind of, like every other sport, it's like, oh, no one knows what's going to go on this year. Like, are we gonna have all the games? Are we gonna, what are we gonna do? And so it's very interesting. Um, but on a quick note before I end on this, we talked about the horrible Ryan Newman crash. Well, when NASCAR does come back for at least a few races in May, in this month, Ryan Newman will be back in the car. He's been cleared to race again, and so thank God for that. He not only did he survive that horrific wreck, but he's healthy enough to go ahead and race again.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. That's good news. That's good. Good to hear.
So, well, now let's go into our other sports story. Why don't you? That was your story, so why don't we go into that, Andy?
Right. Straight up. Well, yeah. For those of you who might not remember, but a year or two ago, the women's, the U.S. women's, the U.S. women's national team for soccer, they had just won, the World Cup for women, and everyone was riding high. But then, the like some of the players, weren't happy with their compensation, and so yes, the highly suspected lesbian, Megan Rapinoe. She was one of she was one of the leaders or figureheads of this movement and subsequent lawsuit against the U.S. Nationals organization. And it was because that they weren't paid as much as the men. Which kicked off like the whole thing about equal pay, even though um, the wage gap has been debunked so many times by so many different people. I mean, as far back as the '70s with Thomas Sowell, I could link the clip of Thomas Sowell in the '70s debunking this, and what's it? And Milton Friedman, the godfather of economics. Milton Friedman, he even like made the case for why why the wage gap doesn't exist, and also why um, minimum wage is a bad thing. But that's a different story. But it's safe to say that, what was that?
I was saying that Thomas Sowell's the guy you guys need to listen to. He's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I really want. I still want to read. I still have to get his book. Was it White Liberal Black Redneck? yeah. I still gotta read that book. Um, so yeah, so they took they went ahead with a lawsuit. I think like 23 people, 23 of the players are listed in this lawsuit. I think they made it into a class action, uh, and but yeah, I think they went ahead and I think they pushed for a summary judgment. And just a couple of days ago, it came back, and the judge ruled that that there was no discrimination, or there was no you know inequality when it came to the, the money aspect of it.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
actually look into the numbers, because here's the thing about sports, right? Like a lot of the it's about like what they are bringing in revenue. Is there's TV contracts, there's actual attendance at the games, and the reality is that as bad as our U.S. soccer team is, they bring in way, 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 way more money than the women's soccer team. Sorry, it's true. Because no one wants to watch fucking women's sport. Sorry, it, it
yeah,
who is anyone watching WNBA games? No. Is anyone watching softball? No. No one's watching that shit. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that they aren't athletes, all that shit. Like, but no one's fucking watching. Is actually like pretty popular. Because it sounds like they're you know they're wearing short skirts and they're moaning through the whole time. So there's
the
plenty of
grunts, yeah, the grunts. It's
yeah.
all about the grunts,
But no one's fucking watching women's soccer.
right?
Sorry.
Well, yeah,
And the fact is,
right.
but no, players' salary is it's based off of not only what the well when it comes to actual like teams, it's what the owners want to pay like the top players, like based off of like salary cap wise, but it's also based off of like the draw. And TV wise, the men's soccer team brings in a zillion more dollars compared to the women's soccer team. And same thing, like people are going to more of the U.S. men's soccer games than the women, because no one's going to watch women's soccer. Sorry, because they're not good. They're good compared to women, obviously, but like when they would play a varsity high school soccer team, they got
Yeah,
their ass handed to
they play they yeah the women's team played a scrimmage game against it's not like Dallas area football club, like 15 and over group, and they got their asses handed to them.
Yeah, it
Three
wasn't
to
even
three to
close.
one, 3-1. That was the score.
Yeah,
The women were beat by 15-year-olds. And so yeah, it's compare yeah. So if the women were going up against men, then yes, you know but obviously equality, equality, equality. That's not what happened here. I have this story from
but yeah, but when you actually dive into the numbers, I think they're making like they're making if you're just looking based off the percentage of like what the men make off of like the actual compared to like the revenue as to what the women make, the women are actually making more percentage points of the money that they from
well
the
yeah.
money that
Let me get into this article here from ESPN. Judge R. Gary Klossner on Friday ruled for U.S. Soccer's motion for summary judgment with regard to the Equal Pay Act, stating in his decision that the players have not demonstrated a trialable issue that the women's national team players are paid less than the men's national team players. Klossner's ruling was informed by the Federation's contention that women's players were paid more in total and on a per game basis than their male counterparts were during the period in question. Friday's ruling cited as undisputed fact that from 2015 to 2019, women's national team averaged 220,747 per game in total payments for a total of $24.5 million, while the men's national team averaged $212,639 per game in total payments for a total of $18.5 million.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So yeah, their entire argument about like, oh, we do the same work but we don't get the same pay is completely blown out of the water with
Bullshit.
this. But yeah, it's utter bullshit. And also, what is it? There's another. Yeah, and they. Oh yeah, here it is. Um, and the thing is, they chose it. They chose to be paid less. Here's the thing: is let's see, in the 32-page ruling. The 32-page ruling went through the detailed history of collective bargaining process that led to the current CBA between U.S. Soccer and the U.S. WNTPA that was signed in 2017. Klossner noted that representatives for the players rejected a pay-for-play model identical to the men early in those negotiations in 2016 in their negotiations. The players offered a counterproposal which with lesser bonuses than the federations offer in exchange for more contracted players and higher base salaries. Benefits not part of the CBA between U.S. Soccer and the men's union. So again, if they did it to themselves,
Wow.
they did it to themselves.
Wow. No one. They don't fucking talk about that. That's huge news.
Yeah, exactly. That it completely destroys their argument. Because
It's not like
it wasn't as though that the the big organization took advantage of these poor helpless women into taking less money. Like no, they chose it. They said, hey, not all, but in general, women are less likely to take risk. So they want guarantees. So they went with the payout structure so that they get a guaranteed amount of money up front,
wow.
as opposed to the men who said like, hey, as
Yeah.
opposed to the men who chose to say, hey, we'll get paid less per game, but we want bonuses for like if we win games or how many points we score, yada yada yada. It's kind of like
Right. Yeah.
working hourly versus working commission.
Exactly. That's wow. That's huge. I see. I didn't know this other part about like how they actually took the guaranteed money as opposed to getting the incentives.
Mm-hmm.
That's big news. See that no one fucking talks about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. No one was talking about this, right? That would have been that would have been some pretty important information to include. It's I was trying to craft a really good analogy, um,
But no,
but
it's like they of course they leave out the stuff that is going to hurt their case because obviously it's all this shit was emotional appeal. Like, oh, we are not paid the same as the men. Oh, what was us like? We were being held down. It's like you held yourselves down, idiot. Had you taken the incentives? Because the thing is that when it comes to women's soccer, they they have a good chance of winning. The U.S. men's soccer team, which obviously no one, not many people give a shit about, like me. But on the world stage, the men are not as good, but like they still have. Yeah, I mean they have some chance. They didn't qualify, but the women, on the world stage are pretty damn good. They should have taken the incentives. They would have made more money.
Right, yeah, that was one of the points that the women were trying to make. It's like, oh, like the men,
Yeah,
they didn't even win, they didn't even win the championship, but and they still made more money than us. It's like, well,
and that's based
that's
off, and that's what I'm saying. That's based off of the revenue that they generate, which is
right,
more than the women.
that's right, yeah.
So
It's just
and
like
and because they
they're
didn't.
asking for more money that didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, and the money that they are making, they're making like some like 33% more than the men are making based off of the just on the money that's generated.
Right,
So
exactly.
don't cry me a fucking river. Fuck these. It's like I hear this like fuck these women. They don't deserve anything. Like they lost. They fucked themselves. If anything.
Yeah, no, they completely did. I mean, it's not
No,
even a question.
you brought something new to the table that I had never heard before. It's like I'm getting more upset with it's like you fucking idiot. God.
Yeah, I mean, I just found out about this too, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean, I had a little bit more time to, kind of digest this, and and come to terms with it. But yeah, like when I first found out, it's like they fucking did this to themselves. That
Yeah,
they chose guarantee, and they didn't bet on themselves. That's what it was. That's what it boils down to. They didn't bet on themselves. They didn't
and,
take
and,
they
and that's and that's fine. That's fine. Take the guaranteed money. I probably do the same thing, but don't bitch when like you actually
right.
do better than what you thought, and then you don't get the incentives because you didn't want the incentives. You wanted to make the guaranteed money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a buddy of mine, he did sales for a really long time, for Viking Cruise Lines, and he told me that he never took a salary. His entire thing was commission based, and he was one of their top salespeople. He made crazy amounts of money.
Yeah.
Because he did. He's like, okay. He's like, all right. He's like, you don't have to give me any money. He's like, I'll take no salary. I'll work all on commission, but I want all of it.
Yeah.
And the company was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, guy. And he ended up being one of their best salespeople. He
And
was pulling in
like
crazy amounts of money.
and there's some people that thrive under that pressure.
Right?
And
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with taking the guaranteed money. That it might be lesser that like let's say you hit like certain incentives, but you don't get that money because you decided to take the guaranteed money. Trust me, I understand taking the guaranteed money. No problem with that. But you can't bitch at the end of the day when you exceed expectations and you win and you don't and pisses me off so much.
Right. I mean, to point back to a biblical story or to a parable, it's like the story, where the man has a vineyard and so he goes to hire workers, and he goes out in early in the morning, and he hires people at a certain price, but then there's still a lot of work to be done in the vineyard, so he goes out in the middle of the day, and he hires um, more people at slightly more than slightly more than the first group, and then again he goes out again like at 3 o'clock, and he hires people and he offers them more than the first or the second group. And at the end of the day, when everyone's being paid out, that first group of people, saw like the last group of people get their money, and they got in their heads like, oh, since we were working the longest, we're sure to get more stuff or get bigger payout. But what
Nope.
happens? The vineyard owner gives them the agreed upon wage, and then they throw a hissy fit and say, "Oh, what the hell? We worked longer than those guys, but they get more money than we do." But and basically
Yeah,
the lesson of that story is like did we not agree upon how much you'd get for a day's work?
yeah. And it's like it's your fault that you didn't believe in yourselves and you wanted to take the guaranteed money. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, again, we are
Um,
not
you
we
know,
are not blaming, we're not shaming them for taking the quick payout. We're not. You know, like 5 times out of 10, I'd probably do the same thing. 50-50 chance,
it
I
hap-
would do the
it,
same thing.
yeah, it happens in sports all the time. Where like I remember there was there's a player. I mean, it happens all the time in baseball, but like there's a player specifically on the Kansas City Royals, the catcher, Salvador Perez. He took a an extension on his contract, and like it was a very like team friendly contract because Kansas City they don't make a ton of money. Is they're one of the mid tier teams, but he took a he made a team friendly deal, and they won the World Series, and everyone's like, oh, he only makes like $10 million, like, but he plays like a $30 million player. Like, why isn't the team paying him anymore? They're essentially like making him a slave, and it's like he's making $10 million. That's the agreed upon contract that he took. He took the quick money because like, well, I don't know, I could be out of it. I could be out of the team next year. So let me take the extension with like the $30 million instead of trying to take a chance. And I mean, the team ended up like kind of correcting it, and like they ended up giving him more money. But still, it's like he took that money. Like he didn't he wanted to take what was life changing money to to for his family, for him and his family. I have no problem with that. Like he had no problem with that. These guys, I have no problem with these these women's soccer players who did that. It's like it's a lot of money, but don't get pissed off when you do better, and then then it's like, well, why don't we get as much as the men? Oh, for fuck's sake! It's bullshit. Fuck these people. And I'm glad that they lost in court. That they didn't have some feminazi judge who had an axe to grind, or some like goddamn white knight like feminist male judge
Yeah, male
that is like,
feminist who's probably who's just probably moments away from his rape accusation. Um, yeah, yeah, like not the entire case wasn't thrown out. Just to clarify, that only that part of it he threw out is the claims that that they weren't supported in terms of travel and lodging and treat like medical treatment. That like they feel like they were still gypped on that part. So it's like that's the only thing that's going. I think allowing to go through to trial or maybe like mediation or I don't know. But that's the only part that made it through in that lawsuit.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Well,
I
at
don't
least
know. Maybe yeah. So that for that part, yeah, maybe they, maybe the organization did skimp on some of like the support stuff. Okay, fine, whatever. Have your day in court. But we now have proof that their claim of uh, income inequality was 100% bullshit.
yeah, that's what I care
But
about.
oh yeah, but it didn't stop. It didn't stop some of the players, and particularly the captain, the, the the probable lesbian Megan Rapinoe from tweeting out like, "Oh, we're it's like
Oh no,
even though this happened, we're still gonna fight for equality." It's like, bitch, you want equality? Then give back $8 million that you got over the men.
yeah.
That's the
Well, it's not
that'd be
probably
equality. Then that would be
she's
equality. All
100%.
right. Yeah, then that would be equality.
It's not.
The eight
Yeah,
million dollars that you got more than the man.
yeah. And let's be honest. It's not probable. She's a lesbian. It's
I know. It's just
you're
fun to.
covering your ass. I understand.
No, no,
I'm
no.
gonna
It's
go
just,
out on a limb.
no. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's just fun. It's kind of like calling someone the wrong name. on purpose, just because you know it's gonna piss them off. So it's like, it's like, if she
Oh, yeah.
isn't, if it isn't, then it's just like kind of like a little poke. It's like,
Yeah.
but if she,
Okay. I see what you're going for. All right.
yeah, my trolling is next level. It's my
Yeah. See, I
my
just do it straight out.
most
Like I just straight out was like, oh yeah, carpet muncher. Okay, got it.
most people troll here. I troll here.
Yeah, I know.